since we can't really present multiple pages for you to read during the meeting at this point. If you have a correction or an addition, unmute yourself and tell us. Otherwise, we will accept the minutes as presented. Okay, I don't hear anybody, so we'll take it as accepted, as presented. Next slide, please. There we go. Budget, the treasurer's report. If you look at the very bottom line of the net income, you will see that we are in the black a little bit by $206. In this year, I see that as quite an achievement. Once again, I want to thank all our dedicated members who show their support through donations and buying raffle tickets. Thank you so, so much for your support. It means a lot. Also, thank you to our treasurer, Glenna Etheridge, for her time and effort in preparing and updating the report, which is more complicated and enough to be more work than usual. So thank you, Glenna.
You're welcome.
And
That bad.
I'm sorry?
I said it's not that bad.
I'm glad you feel
Thank
that way.
you.
If there's no questions or comments on the treasurer's report, it's accepted and filed for audit. Okay, and I don't hear any comments, so let's move on. Membership. We have, in addition to the 3 new members we mentioned in the newsletter, Amy Pigeon, Ann Tomes, and Joanne Mills, we have another 2 new members, Carolyn Peluso and Judith Naylor. Their contact information will be in the December newsletter so that you can pencil it into your yearbooks. And I know you'll all do what you can to make them feel welcome in spite of only meeting virtually. The sunshine cards. Back in June, when the board was preparing for our first Zoom meeting and we were phoning all of your people, all our members, we found a number of people who could use a sunshine card. And it's been a while since then. And I would like to ask that if you know of a member who could use a sunshine card, if you would let both myself and Doreen Waller know. And our contact information is in your very pretty new yearbooks. So again, if you think of anybody who could use a little pick me up, let us know. And the cookbook. The files that were containing recipes that have been submitted by email for the upcoming cookbook were lost due to a technical glitch from the service provider the recipes were stored with. If you submitted your recipe online, those recipes have been recovered. If you did not submit your recipes online, can you please resubmit them? And if you don't remember how you submit them, please just send them again and we'll sort it out. If you have not yet submitted a recipe, please consider doing so. This is an opportunity to show your creativity in a non-needlecraft field. And our goal was that we would like to have at least one recipe from every guild member. Next slide, please. Member-to-member shopping guide. We're trying to put together a list of members who would like to sell items for the holidays and publish a list of their websites or Etsy shops. So if you want to be included in that listing, you can send the information to info@accesscountyneedlecraftguild.com, or I think you can send it to Wendy Beaumont. And again, her contact information is in the yearbook. Next slide. The raffle baskets for December, we have not just one, but 3 great baskets. And the first one is a beautiful quilting basket full of lovely fabrics. It also has a really cool traveling cutting mat and a 21.5 inch by 26.5 inch quilt travel tote bag with both outsides covered in various sized pockets. It looks like it would be really useful. Basket number 2 is a knitting and crochet basket with lots of color coordinated yarns, knitting and crochet books, all tied together with a hand knit brioche scarf. Basket number 3 is an exciting holiday basket. It's been put together by Sandra Goldberg, so you know it's full of interesting little things. And I understand there's a surprise in there somewhere. So if you want to purchase tickets, the deadline is November 30th, and you can send your payments via PayPal or by check to me. And remember that since we have 3 baskets, you have to indicate which basket or baskets you want to buy tickets for. All right. In December, we're going to have 2 mini workshops during our meeting. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to see them. Roseanne Hunter's going to do a handmade fabric garland, and Sandra's going to do handmade Christmas gift tags. So I am looking forward to that very much. So don't forget to join us on December 2nd for that meeting, our next meeting. Now, I hope our speaker is here. We have Diana Reinhardt Annis speaking today. She's going to talk about the history of Redwork quilts, and Redwork pieces feature hand embroidered stitching on pale backgrounds that range from intricate floral designs to charming motifs of family life in 20th century America. Diane, who lives in Norton, is the owner of In Stitches. Kind of a great name. So without further ado, Diana, if you're here.
I am.
You can, yes, and here she's speaking. I didn't have to tell you to unmute. Great, I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
I actually have done a couple of Zoom meetings before, so I can do the Zoom. It's the setup that I'm not good at. And Kristen, poor Kristen, she has had to deal with me for a week now, trying to get me a little more tech savvy. So you've got one patient woman on your hands doing your tech work.
Yeah, Kristen is wonderful.
She is. She's great. So just 2.5 minutes about me. I have been doing needlework for probably about 55 years. I started at 5, 6 years old. My grandmother and mother decided I had to be kept busy and out from under them. So they taught me how to do embroidery. And my grandmother, who worked 50, 60 hours a week, had myself and my 2 brothers on the weekends. My mother would drop us off on Saturday morning and pick us up on Sunday evening, just in time for us to go home and bathe and watch The Wonderful World of Disney. And we would have a draw a piece at my grandmother's house. And in each drawer would be new little goodies for us. My brothers would get Matchbox cars and crayons and books and that sort of thing. And I always got little bits of fabric and new threads and needles. And I would sit and draw on my fabric. Well, my grandmother didn't know to buy muslin or, plain cottons. I learned to embroider on satins and jean fabric and corduroy. And, by the time the 70s rolled around, I was really popular. So I had a lot of embroidery in school and I knew how to do it. So I had lots of friends who wanted to learn how to do this because it was really popular in the 60s and 70s to embroider on your jeans and your coats and your shirts and whatever. So I was known for embroidery in high school, big in high school. And that's how I got started. And that was my first needle art. And you can see one of my quilts in the background. I am an avid quilter. I've been quilting for probably 40 years now. I am a professional machine quilter. I really enjoy that more than anything at the moment, but I incorporate my embroidery in my quilts, and you'll see a lot of that today. But right now, what I want to show you, and let me see what we have here. First slide, not this one, but the other end. Yeah, there we go. This is a quilt coverlet. It's not quilted, it's just a coverlet, but it's wrought with embroidery. And this particular top was given to me because nobody in this woman's family wanted it. They didn't see the beauty in it. And I couldn't grab it and leave fast enough. The next slide. This is white work, and it's particularly English, and it's done with cording rather than floss. This whole piece was made in Appleton, Maine. It's dated 1893. Appleton is mid-coast Maine, a little bit inland, and it was made by a woman who probably might have been first generation from England, but this is very, very English white work is. Next slide. More of the white work. There's a little bit of pulled work in there. Very, very dense, very, really rich and beautiful looking. And one of the things about Zoom meetings that that I suffer through is that I can't send these out into the audience so that you can see them and feel them and really get to know these quilts because they are just beautiful. Next. More of the white work. And if you look at this upper right-hand corner, this is the quilt, the embroidery stitches that she did over the seams. And the seams are all French seams on the back. So this was done with such expertise. It's just incredible. The woman that gave this to me did have another applique quilt that she loved and forced 2 pieces of it onto her 2 children by cutting it up and putting it in frames. And at least they have something of their ancestry, and I'm grateful for that, even though it was cut up. But I'm glad that I got this one, and you can see how tight this work is. It is absolutely magnificent.
Diana, we
Next
have
slide.
a question that says, was the thread originally white?
Yes, yes. This is originally white thread. This is absolute white work. If you look up white work from England, you will see a lot of this. This is very traditional white work, and it's mainly English. European embroidery is very different than what we do here. The early stuff is, although we took a lot of it and brought it here through immigration. The black work, we call black work, but it is a red work stitch. The red work, the right-hand photo, you'll see that on the left of the red, it's pink, and on the right of the red, it's red. And what that is two different colors of floss. They were both red at the time, and they probably looked identical, but the dye in the pink thread washed out, and the dye in the red thread is turkey red, and that's stable. And that's true today. If you find something from this era that has turkey red in it, be it threads or fabrics, they will be a true strong red still. They don't wash out. It was the only color at the time that was really, really stable. Although this black is, after 1891, this black was a good, true, stable color in cotton thread. You couldn't get a good black in cotton until 1891. Next slide. Now this is a penny square quilt. This is about 1895, and it has, I can't even remember how many are in here, but they were called penny squares. You could pick them up at the 5 and dime, general stores, where I don't know when 5 and dimes came into being, but when I was a kid, you could buy them at the 5 and dime. And I was horrified. I would not buy them, which is terrible now. I wish I'd bought them all. But you could go to Woolworths and buy them in the 70s. And they were pre-printed squares. You could buy just numerous amounts of pre-printed squares, a penny a piece in the 1800s. And they had larger ones that you could buy for more. I have an old catalog from the late 1800s that shows a lot of these particular squares. And they would make summer coverlets. They would make summer coverlets out of these and put them on the bed. And the reason that they are in such great shape, and we can go to the next slide. The reason that they're in such great shape, and this is very traditional of what they would do, is because they only put them on in the summer and only when company was coming. This was a way for the woman at the house to show her embroidery skills. The little girl pieces here are of Anne Greenaway illustrations. Anne Greenaway was an author of children's books in the late 1800s. Next slide. This is more of them, and this is very typical. 49, we think, is probably a lodge number of some kind. We can't quite figure it out. There's not enough information on the quilt, but it is a clue. The horseshoe, actually, this one is up, but most of the quilts that I have, the horseshoe is down. And I know that in New England, it's very strong for us to think that if it's down, it means all the luck is run out. But that's only regional. You'll find in the Midwest that they're always up. So this may have come from the Midwest, I'm not sure. Next slide. This is a whole cloth coverlet. This is one of my favorites. It is the most consistent stitch I have ever seen in Redwork. It is so, just every stitch is the same size, the same tension, absolutely perfect. But this was done on a sheet, which I found really interesting because it's a very Victorian design, but this sheet was commercially produced. So I don't know what era this is. It could be around the 1910s, 1920s, when more commercial items were available. Next. This is up close and
Wow.
personal with that, and you can see that these are really beautiful. Yeah, really
Body
beautiful,
for this presenter.
really pretty designs.
The audio keeps coming in and out.
This particular one I would like to do as a pattern because I've never seen it anywhere. You have to be careful of copyright, but I own this and I've never been able to find any of it anywhere. And I think it may be an original design. I'd like to pattern this up at some point. Next slide. This is the back. That's how neat the back is. This was really an expert. Next. Now, are any of you familiar with Ruby Short McKim? Ruby McKim lived in Midwest somewhere, Indiana, I want to say. She was an entrepreneur, female entrepreneur before it was fashionable. In 1916 or 1914, she won a contest that allowed her to create this series of characters from the Thornton Burgess book, Bedtime Stories. And that launched her career. She was a single woman. She was also a teacher. 2 years after she did this, this was actually, each of these were in the Kansas City Star. It was the first series of patterns ever done anywhere. She created a series along with the Kansas City Star. It would be in the newspaper once a week, and they were truly meant to teach children how to embroider. Next.
We have a question from Sandra saying she has been looking for a printed stick cross stitch sampler and was wondering where
Body for this
find pattern.
presenter.
I think you can Google them. You might find something on the Ruby Short McKim
Oh my
website.
God. Yeah, they're like an anal retentive.
I'm not really sure where to find a sampler per se. I know there are a lot of pre-printed designs that you can get from various different manufacturers, designers. But I am not sure about a sampler itself. But I would, I'm going to have to do a little research on that. Next slide. These are a couple of the characters up close with their names. And this particular quilt I picked up, it is from 1916. Next. And more. Next. And next. Now this one is very interesting to me. This one has a date on it. These are all penny squares. It is a coverlet. It does have a backing to it. And it was used in the summer. It was never really used a lot because this was made by 8-year-old Henry Brown. Henry was an only child. He grew up, married, and had no children. And so the contents of his estate upon his death went to auction. And I think after the first person got this in auction, I got it after that. And I'm just enamored by this because the stitching is beautiful. And to think that an 8-year-old did this is just amazing. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, and there I do have an up close of that. Next slide.
We have
Here
a
is it.
about older Redwork samples show the use of some form of stabilizer. If so, what is used?
Some people will use a very lightweight stabilizer. Some people will use just an extra piece of muslin. Some people will use a very lightweight batting. And those are for various reasons. And here you have, and I'm not really sure why, I don't use any stabilizer with mine. I'm just very comfortable. These two blocks show white thread, and that is not a red thread that has washed out. This is actual white thread. And I have 3 Redwork antique coverlets that have white thread in them. No idea why. I'm searching that out, trying to figure out why they would use white thread in various parts of the blocks. But right now, I can't tell you why. Next. This is on the left, the mice chasing. That is 1892, worked by H.A. Brown. He 8 years, and that's Henry A. Brown. And another thing on the spider web, if a spider web does not have a spider in the center, it's bad luck. If it has a spider in the center, it's good luck. It doesn't have to be in the center, it can be anywhere, but as long as it has a spider, it's good luck. Symbolism everywhere. Next. This is a really interesting quilt. This one is dated 1890 or 1891. And I looked at it and I thought, well, this is really stumping me because black cotton thread didn't come out until 1891. There was no stable dye for that. And so I perused with a lot of my, I'm also an appraiser, and so I asked a lot of questions with my appraiser friends, and I finally took a 440 time loop magnifier and looked at the threads, and sure enough, it's wool thread in this, not cotton thread. Next. Nope, that's back. There we go, 1890. So I looked close at that thread, and you can see how fine it is. It's equally as fine as any floss, but it is wool thread and not cotton thread. Next. And very beautiful designs. And this is also penny square. These were pre-printed designs. And they would do interesting designs where, you know, nothing referred back to each other. It wasn't just, you know, a pretty design of the birds, but it would be something interesting with different things on it. And I'm not sure why, but they had lots of them. Next. And here's one that where you can see the stems of the flowers are on the bottom. This one was put sideways, so that may have been an embroidery person that was a little conflicted about either up or down. So it was set sideways. Next. And here's more white thread, and that is definitely white thread because when red thread washes out, there's a pink tinge to it. And this has no pink at all. Next. This is another whole cloth, and this one is quilted. It does have a very thin batting in it, cotton batting, and it's very densely quilted, and it's densely quilted all over with a cross hatching. Now this is another one that I have talked to various people around about the pattern, and nobody has ever seen a pattern like this in Redwork, nor have they seen a, that's what I said too, Anna. Oh my God, when I saw it. Neither have they seen a kit like this. And I talked to the woman who is the guru of kit quilts. So I'd like to pattern this one also. I think that would be a fun one. We believe that this was probably last quarter of the 1800s, where it was quilting designs that were used to create this. Next. 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 This is Victorian. It's a baby quilt. And I can call it a baby quilt because the center actually says baby. But in the world of appraising, we call them diminutive quilts when they're small like this. It probably was, it has a lot of the Victorian era designs, but it probably was made early in the 1900s because of the lace, the cotton lace that is, it's a, we call it, it's a manufactured lace, and it's not, I don't see any of it before the 1900s. So I believe that this was early in the 1900s that this was made. Next. And just very, very sweet. Next. Very dense redwork, very ornate. Next. Now this one is interesting. This one was made by the ladies of the GAR, and I believe that this was many hands because the embroidery is different in every block. You can see the differences in the technique, in the way it was done. Some longer stitches, some tiny stitches, some a lot of carrying over in the back, and a lot of not carrying over in the back. This one was hanging around for a while because you can see that little dark spot right there in the center. That is probably mouse urine. And I see a lot of that in old quilts. And down on the bottom in the, excuse me, down in the bottom in the spider web, you can see it probably was a mouse nest because there's a lot of chewing through it. But it's clean. I don't keep them the way they are when I get them often. And it's, I am gonna clean it again. It was clean when I got it, but I'm gonna clean it again because I think I can get most of this out. Next. Ladies of the GAR, you can see the initials in each block, here and here, and some in the one above, because they were all done by different women. And I think this was probably a fundraiser. Next. And there you go, up close and personal. Next. And another Anne Greenaway. And you can see different hands. The one on the left is very neat, and the one on the right could be a little neater, but it's still really nice. And next. Now this one is an example of using very thin fabric. And this was right after World War I, when manufacturing was getting back to normal. But the fabrics were done very thinly because manufacturing was not up to par yet. These are nice penny squares, but done on very thin fabric, something that you can see your hand through, that we wouldn't necessarily buy today for a big project like this, but it was probably what was available at the time. And you'll see right over here, this is an elephant. That's Jumbo. And do any of you know the story about Jumbo? Ringling Brothers Circus came over from England, and Jumbo was a huge hit in the United States. He only lived for 3 years in the US before he was killed by a train. And this is 1915, and they're still paying tribute to him in these penny squares. Next. And Sunbonnet Sue came on scene in the early 1900s. There were versions of her before 1900, but it was really much more common later on. Next. Nursery rhymes. This is Red Riding Hood, where the wolf is getting in. And chickens. Chickens were huge because so many people at the time were raising chickens, cows, pigs, that sort of thing. Even in the cities, you'd find chickens. Next. This is another Jumbo. This is a single little block that I found somewhere, and I just Jumbo is adhered to my heart. Also, cross stitch became widely available after the 1900s. 19-teens, 1920s became very popular. And that's where you'll find a lot of the cross stitch kits from Paragon, Hirschner's, those sorts of things, companies. You'll find a lot of those in the 20s, right up through the 70s. Next. This is a pillow cover. This is very small, not really small. It's probably 2 foot by 2 foot, Victorian. And when you laid out your Redwork quilt or coverlet on your bed, you also would put pillow covers over the pillows, also in Redwork. And they didn't have to have anything to do with what was lying on the full bed, but you needed to cover up those pillows too. And it was just another piece of work that you could show off. In older homes, and we see them all over New England, you had bedrooms that were right off of the parlor where you would greet guests. And most of the time those doors were either not there or always open because the heat needed to go from the parlor into the bedrooms. And so those rooms were open to be seen by guests. So they would put the Redwork pieces on the bed, or their best quilts, or whatever they used. And so their guests could see what they did, and how well they did. And of course, after the guests left, those came off. Next. This is a pre-printed kit quilt. It's one that's unfinished. It's one that I bought just like this, and I probably will just keep it like this because I think it's beautiful the way it is. Interesting. The outline of the bunny is all in cross stitch, and the grass pieces are all in an outline stitch. Really cute, something that I enjoy. But you can see on the right hand one the preprint of the right hand bunny. Next. So this is another Ruby Short McKim, and this is probably the 30s, I believe. Very, very thin fabric. Another time where manufacturing had to defer. This is an insignia quilt. This is from the 1940s, and the signatures were all written in pencil, I believe, and then they were embroidered by whoever created this quilt. They all come from a small area in Tennessee, many family members. I don't know why this quilt was made. I do know that it was made in this particular geographical area of Southwest Tennessee. And it probably was either a church group or given to somebody moving away or a pastor or something, which was very common at the time. Next. This is an applique flower that comes right from, and you can see the signatures there. So this is another kit quilt, and it was pre-printed, and this would also be a coverlet. This was probably from the 40s. This was very common at that time period. This area would be up around the pillow.
We have a question that says, when penny squares were purchased, did they come with a background story or were they sold in a theme series?
Often they were sold singly. If they were in a theme series, they would probably be set out together, but they were sold singly. The center of that, nicely done, all cotton threads. This is another one, same era, different design, meant to be the pillow area. Same sort of design, same sort of flowers, cotton threads. Now we're getting into my own personal quilts. This one comes from a 2005 issue of, I want to say it's McCall's magazine, McCall's Quilting. I did each individual piece. They saw jury duty, dentist's office, doctor's office. Very, very easy to take everywhere I went. I remember not being able to find one of the pieces once. And I went to a hairdressing appointment and she promptly brings me over my plastic bag with my name and phone number on it and my piece that I was missing. And I had left there. Next. That's the center. It was a lot of fun to do. And this one I hand quilted too. I very seldom hand quilt. You know, you get that big long arm machine and hand quilting goes out the window. Next. These are a couple of, or this particular one was a piece that I did for a class. One of the things that I wanted to show was you always put your heaviest piece on the bottom, next heaviest, and your lightest. And in the lightest, the bumblebee bodies are with 2 threads, but their wings are with 1 thread. The flowers are with 2 thread, but the stems and leaves are in 1 thread. And that just shows weight. It gives you that feeling of weightiness. In the sunflower, you have the seed, the more mature seeds are in the middle, so those knots are done in 2 threads, and on the outside, they're done in 1 thread. Just changing it up a little bit to give you the weight. Next. This is a Ruby Short McKim series of patterns. This is the Roly Poly Circus. I love this series. I think this is a lot of fun. I wanted to do it in a way that made it look like they were designed yesterday and not yesteryear. And I think I was successful. I just played with however I wanted to come up with just a different design that made it look more modern. Next. Now this is another pillow sham, and pillow cover, excuse me. And it's and it's a pattern I actually discovered that I have. I do have this particular pattern for sale. You'll also notice that it has a little bit of a Japanese look in the wording, and this was very common after the Pan American show and several shows, world shows in the late 1800s and early 1900s, where Japanese design became extremely popular. And this was done probably about 1890. Next. Another pillow cover, and just sweet. And one of the other things is a lot of these generic women may have been the maker herself. It may have been an image of the maker. Next. This is an image that I did. It's on cotton, but it's done with silk threads. And this is from Dover. Dover books, dover.com. They're free images online. This one actually came from a book, but their books are very, very inexpensive. And I just love some of their images. They really are wonderful in embroidery. Next. This is another image of a pillow sham. I'm probably going to put this into the center of the quilt. It's done with 12 weight sulky on cotton in a variegated color called peacock. Next. This is from a Japanese book that I have. There's Quilts Japan, and I cannot remember the name of the other book, but there are two main Japanese quilting magazines, and they often, well, I think there are three or four issues of Redwork, lots and lots of Redwork, and this comes from one of those issues, and there are many more. You can see that they have really whimsical design, but I'm going to make a whole quilt of their designs. Next. This one came out of a Better Homes and Gardens book from 1986. Whoop, back. Can we go back? Yep. There we go. Is that me? And I love this design. This was one I really enjoy doing. So I've done it a couple of times, and my mom loved it. So in the last couple of years of her life, she couldn't get to her sewing machine anymore. She was COPD. So I would draw her out designs and send her thread, and she would sit in her chair and just embroider, and that was what she could do. And she loved it. It kept her busy and occupied and happy. And I got to keep all of the things that she did. But I did this one. She's done another one. Next. This is a Lackadaisies design. They're out of Texas. I do have several of these patterns. Next. This is the one my mom did, and I quilted it for her. She wanted it quilted and put into a pillow cushion, and I just never got it into a cushion for her, but she had it quilted, and she used to just lie in her bed with it on her belly. Feel it. Next. This is one that is interesting to me. I love it. It was fun to do, but I'm going to do it in blue because when I put it into competition, nobody liked the color. So it never got anything. But it's got Trapunto work in it. It's got crystals in it. It's got very heavy, dense quilting. The center is one strand of floss. Next. And you can see it's really kind of a small area. It's only about maybe 8 by 8. So it couldn't take any more than a single strand. It's cotton on cotton. You can see the trapento work and the dense, really dense quilting in there. A lot of fun to do. Very dense. This from the top to the bottom of the stripes and the leaves is just one piece of fabric. There's no applique there. It's just a print. Next. This is my latest piece that I'm trying to get to. Not that I don't have 1,000 projects going like everyone else. This is a Dottie Kruger. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dottie Kruger. She was a quilt shop owner in Plymouth, and she did a lot of red work, blue work, black work. And she did all the shows, big shows around the East Coast and Midwest. And this was one of her quilts. And I believe that this was a rendition of an antique that she had. You can see I'm still working on it. Next. Really tight, tight stitches. My stitches are about 1/8 of an inch. I like them to lie right where I want them to be. You'll see in a lot of older quilts where the stitches are a little bit longer and they tend to fall inward. And I try not to have that happen on the curves. And my mantra is the tighter the curve, the tighter the stitch. Next. This is the back of the quilt. And I've opened up all my seams because I want them to be flat. And I cut off very, very tightly all the threads. Next. And this is the border, which I think is really perfect for this quilt. Next. And I have a lot for sale. I understand that you'll be getting this file. I did have a piece that I forgot to put into this, and somebody just asked a question about that. On Pinterest, if you, or anywhere, Google, but Pinterest is, I probably have 40 boards on Pinterest. If you go and search line drawings, you will get a ton of beautiful work. I actually did a line drawing of a little bunny, and you can see his hair, you can see how he's crouched up, and just came to be a beautiful little embroidery, gray thread on a pale pink. And it's just beautiful. It's really nice to see, to do, and a nice little accent. But I did want to put out there that any of my things for sale, if you would like to get together to put in an order, I will drop ship it to wherever you would like, all the orders, and it'll be free shipping if it's over $50. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing some nice old work and a few new pieces. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Diane, just perfect.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah, and it's good that we have your site too. All right, we are back to the meeting, and Sandra Goldbear, I think, wants to say something. So Sandra, if you want to unmute and speak up. There she is.
I have received a number of recipes, which is wonderful. And heavy on the desserts, which is not surprising. So please look at the other things that we need. A lot of people that are at this meeting have not sent in their recipes. And I'm watching you.
Are you calling on us?
I'm not. I will come with a hook.
Yeah.
Sandra,
Yes.
Katie Carlin wanted to know if there was a way that they can find out whether you have their recipe or not.
Ah, okay.
Can they just ask you if you've got such and such a recipe? And
What is the name again? I've started a list.
Katie Carlin.
She's not on the first page, and I haven't gotten to the second page yet, which I am going to do today.
Okay,
My Gmail swallowed up all of my files, not just the recipes, but everything. So I'm a little bit discombobulated.
yeah.
But I'll figure out some way of letting everybody know.
All right, that'd be good if we can. If not, when in doubt, resend the recipes. It's my theory.
Yes, thank you very much.
I just wanted to follow up and see if anyone had any questions for Diana while we still have her.
I would love to know where you told me I might find the cross stitch, because I didn't get the name in time to write it down.
I would look up on Pinterest
Oh, I've done that.
and do a Google search.
I've done that.
Okay, and I'll do some searching myself and see if I can't find something for you.
But you mentioned something about Ruby something.
Oh, Ruby Short McKim. If you look up Ruby Short McKim, McKim, there's a website that her granddaughter runs that has all of her patterns. I don't believe that she has a cross stitch sampler, but you might find something akin to that on there.
Great.
But you can go to Hirschner's.
Been there, done that.
Oh dear.
eBay. You name it,
Yeah.
hours. It's just that I
Yeah.
can't do counted cross stitch.
This has got a catalog.
We have
Um,
a question about how do you clean the stains?
It depends on what kind of a stain it is and if it's on something antique or something new. If it's on something new, and it's, let's see, I had one that was a coffee stain that I could not get out. So I coffee stained the whole piece and that disguised it very well. On some of the antique stuff with turkey red thread, you can use a product that is called Retro Clean and follow the directions. It's a powder soap and that works really, really well. That's what I'm going to use to get that mouse urine out. But I really stay away from quilt wash because in the white bottle, because that is originally a saddle soap. It has a lot of oil in it and it's very slick. It's very hard to rinse out. It also doesn't get everything out. But I really like that. And I like Forever New. That's also a powder. Those two products are the ones that I use the most.
Can you repeat the name of the cleaner? We have a question. What was the name of the cleaning product?
Retro Clean. RETRO Clean. You'll find it in dedicated quilt shops and online.
Anyone else for questions? I know we all enjoyed that, Diana, so thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
thank you very much for doing this, Diana.
Thank
It
you
was,
for
it
having
was
me.
lovely to see all of those.
Thank you for having me.
This, this,
I have a ton more.
this was a
This is
really
way more.
beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we need to move on. And the last item on today's agenda is the drawing. And I have it here,
Is that an embroidery?
all 118 tickets, which have
Ooh.
been shaken and stirred. And now we are going to pick the winner.
Come on, come on, come on. I don't need it. I like that. So beautiful.
Linnell Nestor is our winner.
Oh,
Yay!
Linnell,
All right.
Nestor.
Linnell,
Yay.
I'll call you later to see about delivery to you.
It comes in the bag. This is the. Oh, yeah. What's the one for December?
All right. Next meeting is on Wednesday, December 2nd. We are going to have the two little demos that we showed you earlier. And we've got the 3 baskets, and that's going to be what we're going to call this year's holiday celebration. It's what it is in a virtual world. Don't forget our daily Facebook postings every day. And everybody stay safe and stay well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.